a returning guest, my friend Andrew Scarborough. How you doing, Andrew?
Yeah, I'm really good, thanks. I'm still alive and still doing well.
We're going to talk about your story in a second because I want to set the table for this discussion. And he brings with him Isabella Cooper. How are you, Isabella?
Hello, very good, thank you.
So some people may have heard your first two shows we did. The very first one was your diagnosis, and the second one was you beat the odds. But just kind of give us the Reader's Digest version. You would diagnose, if I recall properly, with an astrocytoma, right?
Yeah, correct. So astrocytoma, it's the star-shaped cells in the brain. I was diagnosed with, more specifically, an anaplastic astrocytoma. So all that means is an astrocytoma that's displaying anaplasia. So it's malignant. And I was diagnosed after a brain hemorrhage on a train that left me with grand mal seizures and a large mass of abnormal blood vessels in the brain, which after the hemorrhage caused it to scatter cells all over my brain, which we later found out were highly aggressive cancer cells. And so I had surgery to remove most of the tumor. I then had some treatment before realizing that my tumor was not chemosensitive and of a very poor prognosis. So more specifically, there are two mutations that are determining those conditions whereby it's chemosensitive and you have a poor prognosis. So this was, in my case, I was IDH1 wild type, which is supposed to be the bad one, and MGMT, unmethylated MGMT. And MGMT is DNA repair protein, whereby if the gene is unmethylated, then treatment with chemo and radiation is supposed to be ineffective. So I abandoned those treatments, and to cut a long story short, to come off my anti-epileptic drugs and to manage my epilepsy, I put myself on a very strict ketogenic diet. In the literature, it's called an oligoantigenic ketogenic diet, because there are certain foods, even on a ketogenic diet, that if you have the type of epilepsy that I had, which is called reflex epilepsy, meaning it's not spontaneous, you can have seizures as a kind of like allergic reaction to foods.
Mm-hmm.
I found that out with lots of trial and error and reading the literature. And over time, I had things like hyperbaric oxygen therapy, added in a bioavailable form of magnesium, boswellic acids, and hyperbaric oxygen therapy. And over time, the enhancement that was showing on my scans was improving, and my scar tissue was improving. And so I managed to come completely off all my medication. It took 2 years, and over time I've just been getting better and better. From that point, I decided to go back to studying. So I studied focused on cancer biology to try and understand why I was doing so well, and to get a firmer grasp on brain-tumor metabolism, because that was my main focus, especially after I'd completely controlled my epilepsy without medication. That allowed me to focus a lot more closely on this, and then to get involved in research, and that's what I'm doing now. So I'm heavily involved in brain cancer research, and along with my colleague Isabella, who I studied with and I'm now working with on this cancer metabolism study, we're aiming to have this work as a landmark study that can be built upon future studies, and it can allow us to see what metabolic interventions can be effective for establishing a metabolic phenotype of glioblastoma.
I also want to mention something else. When you were diagnosed, you were a personal trainer, weren't you?
Yeah, I was working.
Well, I want to set the stage because I think that, you know, you were young, you were active, you understood the components of fitness and health, and yet you developed this. So, you know, it's an important thing to kind of, since we're talking about phenotypes, you were probably not the phenotype that you would think would have developed an astrocytoma, right? Did we just lost your audio? I don't know. Oh, you muted yourself somehow. Okay, now you're unmuted. So answer that question. Did you weren't the phenotype you would think that would develop a brain tumor, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't have thought so. I was on a pescatarian diet at the time, and I thought that was like the best diet ever.
Right.
And I was told that that was going to protect me against any kind of disease, let alone cancer. And at the time, I was also doing a master's in nutritional therapy. So yeah, that's actually when I learned about ketogenic diets, but I dismissed it at the time.
Isabella, is there a problem with our audio? I saw you adjust.